Tracey is a exercise physiologist, and today she's going to talk to us about the services that she offers and how we can get benefits by visiting someone who's an accredited exercise physiologist. She'll tell us about the differences of a personal trainer and a couple of programs that she's running. In particular, she's chosen a niche market of helping women over 65. So without further ado, I'll get Tracey to introduce herself properly and get into the nitty-gritty of what she does, why she does it, and why she loves it. Over to you, Tracey.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks for having me today. It's a real pleasure to be here to share what I do. I'm really passionate about the work I do. And yes, I am in a bit of a niche market. I primarily deal with women, and some of my programs are for women over 65. I've made a little bit of a presentation about some of the things I do and the differences, not only between a personal trainer and an exercise
Yes.
physiologist, but the difference between us and a physiotherapist. We're very similar, but at the same time, there's a lot of differences as well. So I'll just pop up my presentation if you just bear with me just for a moment. Can you see that okay?
Yes, I can, Tracey. Thank you.
So firstly, an exercise physiologist. We are allied health professionals, very similar to physiotherapists. We fit under that bracket of allied health, where you can obtain a referral from your GP to work under a general practitioner management plan. We are university qualified as compared to,
Yep.
say, a personal trainer who would maybe have a certificate 3 or 4 in exercise. An exercise physiologist has the ability to design, deliver, and evaluate interventions of exercise for people who generally have a chronic condition or a medical injury or a disability. So I deal
Yep.
with a lot of NDIS clients as well. And some of the things that I primarily work with are people who've had, say a heart attack or have diabetes, neurological
Yep.
things like Parkinson's disease and MS, some respiratory things like asthma, COPD, and mental health has been a big thing, particularly after COVID. But generally, all of the exercise interventions that we do are backed by evidence and can clearly indicate that the client's clinical status will improve. ESSA, that big logo you can see on the screen there, is the accreditation board that we need to sort of accredit with.
Yep.
And so in comparison to, say, like I said, an AEP is an allied health professional. We can do things as well as we're kind of holistic in our approach to wellness,
Yep.
and it's not just exercise, but we can look at things that helping you understand your chronic condition. We do a lot of health coaching and sort of guide you through exercise in improving certain aspects of your life with physiology, particularly lifestyle changes.
Yes.
Um, a physiotherapist, for example, is very similar to us, also an allied health professional. The difference between us and them is that they can provide the diagnosis. We can't. However, we can
Okay.
hypothesize, but we work very closely with physios for that reason and also GPs. And they can do things like manipulation, such as massage. So we generally don't have a hands-on approach,
Yep.
but we can refer on. Personal trainers, like I mentioned earlier, are very important in the mix. We can sort of complement each other. So we might be the people to write a program for somebody, and then they would go off and a personal trainer could help implement that. So could an exercise scientist.
Yep.
But
So
yeah,
can
so
I,
for example, yes.
yeah, I was just going to say, so you touched upon the difference between um, an exercise physiologist with and then a physiotherapist. If you can just elaborate, give some examples of, like you say, you can't manipulate someone's muscles or give you advice on that. So just to help people understand, is there some examples you could give?
Yeah, sure. So, for example, if somebody, most recently, I had a client who was recently diagnosed with cancer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so if I was to see somebody like that, I would do a full medical assessment and some like tests on them to see what their current abilities are, what their strength is, considering all
Yes.
sorts of aspects such as fatigue, what type of treatment, whether it was, radiation or chemotherapy, if they had lymph
Okay.
nodes removed, all of that sort of stuff comes into play.
Yeah.
And then from that, I can then prescribe a program based on the information I've gathered. A physiotherapist would do a very similar sort of screening.
Yeah.
I treat generally more chronic conditions such as,
Okay.
Parkinson's and all that
Yes.
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But physios are more, I guess, acute. So if they've got,
Okay.
you've hurt yourself, they obviously do other things as well when there's specialized physios. But yes, I
Yeah.
can't diagnose. So generally somebody comes to me once they have a diagnosis.
Yeah. And I really like that you're very holistic. You consider everything that's going
Yeah.
on in that person's life and what they've
Yeah.
been doing,
You
the
know,
limitations. Yeah.
yeah. And so some of the things that I would ask in an interview would be, obviously everything we discuss is completely confidential.
Yes.
I look at things like relationships. Is that person living alone? Do they have good support? Are they happily married? Because there could be a level of mental health in there. I look at how sleep patterns are. Are they sleeping well? Because there's lots of risk factors involved. If you're not getting good sleep, are they drinking? Are they smoking? There's never
Yes.
obviously any judgment, but it's me gathering as much information as I can to help guide them to live a better quality of life.
Thanks, Tracy. I'll let you carry on.
Um, I guess some of the services that I offer, I can provide, like I mentioned, a comprehensive assessment, and I can help you plan, um, you know, I guess a program around helping you live a better life. I can give you a specific individualized program, but also people can come and join some of the programs that I've developed. I
Yeah.
also help with like behavioral changes. So people who have been living their life, being a long-term smoker or a long-term drinker and living a sedentary lifestyle, these are all risk factors for things like heart disease and diabetes and some cancers. So
Yeah.
helping people understand the risks associated with that, even sometimes at a more cellular level, is very, very important. I feel like educating people is a very important part of my role. And
Yeah.
then helping them make those modifications to their lifestyle to live better
Yes.
that's probably the main crux of my business.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, I do run group exercise physiology classes. One of them in particular is Silver Sneakers, and another one is a Nordic walking class, which is pretty new to Australia
Yeah.
and around. We get a few cheeky comments here and there, but it's really good. Once I start sharing a little bit about that, I when I was doing my training in it, I was just amazed at why more people weren't doing it. It's really,
Yeah.
really
Now
good
you'd have to
health.
tell us more.
Yeah, yeah. I also do some one-on-one stuff. Obviously, a lot of my NDIS stuff, I have patients coming in with all sorts of different conditions where I can, not just NDIS, but people who might have a chronic injury. And people can see me either through the Medicare system if they've got a plan with their GP or through their private health fund or just as a private patient themselves.
So how would people find you normally? Would there
Um,
be a
so
referral nearby or um
you
yeah,
don't
just
necessarily need a referral to come and see me,
yes.
although that is available to you if you need some assistance. Um,
Yes.
people can just contact me, and I'll be sharing my contact details at the end, just on to book an appointment.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, you can find me on the internet, you can find me on LinkedIn, you
Okay.
can find me on Facebook and Instagram
Yes,
as
and the
well.
socials. This is how we
Yeah,
connected.
all the socials. It's a big part of my job, actually.
Yeah. I mean, and that's unfortunately or fortunately, it's kind of opened up access to information for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and for us to actually share what we do and why we do it. So I think it's good in that. But yeah, it does take a bit of time.
I feel like it's a really important part of my job, though, is
Yes.
to make sure that the information that I share, it's always evidence-based, it's research,
Yep.
there's research backing what I say. And I feel like that really does build a lot of trust with the community.
Yes.
I have to upkeep 20 CPD points every year, so to stay on top of all of my learnings and stay current. So I feel like that's a lot of people go, oh no, 20 CPD points, but I find it's really beneficial in helping keep me current with the latest
Yeah. And I think people are
treatments.
actually looking for, like I said, evidence-based information when just these days you just get bombarded with so much information, and every time
Correct.
you open your app, it's just constant. And so to know someone you can go to who's done their studies, is keeping up to date with all the changes and professionally, and has a good rapport with people and takes a holistic approach, that's really awesome. And I really feel that everyone is looking for that. We're all, I think the average age of Australians is over 40 now. So all of us are taking care of our bodies to live longer, live healthy. And
Yeah.
that's what I've observed.
Yeah. It's really positive. There's a lot of people who are starting to understand. I mean, maybe 50 years ago, I don't even know if people knew what an exercise physiologist was. It's a relatively, I guess, new idea to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But we're slowly getting the word out about how important, exercise and not living a sedentary lifestyle really is.
Yep. Silver sneakers. Tell me about it.
It's my baby. I while I was at uni, I actually started designing this program because I was working in a gym and running programs for older women, and I really firstly enjoyed it, but secondly, we're noticing that how important the power of bringing women together, particularly older
Yes.
women. Some of the women I were dealing with had lost their husbands or their children had grown up and moved out of home, and they were living in an isolated world. So bringing them together, one to exercise and keep well, reduce the risk of things like osteoporosis and
Yes.
other chronic conditions, particularly after menopause, women are at increased risk of osteoporosis and types of cancers and heart disease more so than before menopause. So it's really
Okay.
important to keep moving
Yeah.
as they get older. So yeah, I started designing this program, particularly for people who'd never moved before. So a lot of people are intimidated by things like the gym and lifting heavy weights. So
Yes.
there's a huge aspect of education in this program and very simple movements like sitting and standing or a bicep curl or walking sideways. And I educate people as to why that's really, really important. It goes for 9 weeks, with every week having a kind of a focus. I'll show you the structure in a minute. But it encompasses things like aerobic exercise, which is generally walking, some strength exercises, some balance exercises, how to stretch. And I assess people at the beginning and at the end, and I've had some remarkable outcomes with regard to that. I also have people teach people how to set some goals as well, like real
Yeah.
smart goals. The specific, the measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely ones.
Yeah.
And from that, people really can see that they've been making changes because a lot of people come in and go, oh, I want to lose weight. How much weight do you want to lose?
That is
20
always,
20 kilos in 9 weeks. That's not going to be achievable. But when we
yeah.
break it down into smaller achievable things and people realize that, they can actually make change and some really great outcomes have come of it. And yeah, it's for women over 65, but it's not like it's not concrete. So if people are unwell or, they might be in their late 50s and really want to start making
Yeah.
change, of course, they're welcome into the program.
Or someone who's like just starting out again and is unfit,
That's
probably
right.
that would just a restart, reset.
Yeah, and it helps women, build some confidence, particularly people who have had experienced falls in the past. That can really knock somebody's confidence about. So it's about, giving them the skills, the tools, and the
Yeah.
ability to sort of live confidently in the community again.
Yep. No, thank you. Sounds like an awesome program.
Um, so I'll just talk a little bit. People are probably wondering why I've chosen women over 65. And there is, I am one I've mentioned, I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And, that isolation as women get older, and, of course, men do as well. But women are some of these stats, firstly, are a little bit old because the ABS doesn't release, stats every year. So you can imagine that with the increase in population, that these stats probably have increased anyway. But most of the trends in hospitalised injuries due to falls of older people um, between the 2007-8 period and the 2016-17 period shows that 125,000 people aged over 65 were seriously injured due to a fall. And in the hospitalisations, women happened to make up at least 65% of that, which is over 50%. That bears a big impact on our healthcare system. And if you have a fall, the risk of falling again is increased.
Yeah.
And once you're in that system of hospitalisation, you know, depending on how long you're in hospital, you can start to lose muscle mass, and then
Yeah.
begins this vicious cycle of trying to get well, but so the program primarily is really to keep people out of hospital, or if they do happen to have a fall, have the ability to recover well, and not end up in a nursing home. So yeah, and live independently for longer. Yeah, so like I mentioned, falls are the biggest threat to a person's independence. There's a really big part of education and helping people live independent lifestyle. And basically, it's just to hope, everybody will come into the program with a different goal. And so my aim is really to just have positive outcomes for everybody. No matter what it could be. I had one lady come to the program who wanted to be able to lift out the chicken roast on a Sunday evening with all the veggies on her own without having to ask her husband. So, simple
I
things like
love
that
that. Yeah, because
really,
we take things for granted, right? Until
sure.
you lose it all the time. And I have my own personal story with why I've become an advocate for movement, but that's for another time. And I'm not a professional. It's just what's happened and just observation. But I really think that having a professional like yourself and just more and more people becoming aware, it's the simple things, but they take time, right? Building your muscles again and all of that. Once you lose it,
Absolutely.
takes a bit of a while and you need professional help. So I
Yeah.
think it's fabulous.
And it's really great to have people like yourself out there, Cheryl, advocating for physical activity in our community. I had a look at your webpage, and there's lots of good resources and connections for people to connect with. So yeah, it's really great to have people like you out there. Thank you. Yeah, this is just a little bit of an overview of what we do in the 9-week program. You can see that we do some strength, flexibility. There's a
Yeah.
big focus on balance and teaching people about how things like the eyes and the ears are really important when we balance. There's a big
Wow.
component on falls and how to get up if you actually do happen to have a fall. This is a falls prevention program, but it's
Yeah.
not to say you'll never have one.
Yeah.
And how to know if it's safe to get up if you fall, and some of the strategies that you should have in place, particularly if you live independently, so that if you do have a fall, you've got some strategies in place to make sure that you stay safe and can get help.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we just do a little bit more strength, we do some core work, and then we do another assessment right at the end. So
Yeah.
and yeah, in that 9 weeks, it's quite incredible some of the turnaround that we've had and improvements in some of our clients that
Yeah.
have joined the program. Oh, this is just a little video about, I don't know if this is going to work or you can hear the sound, but hopefully you can. This is just a little, no sound there.
Yeah.
This is just some of
Oh
my silver
yes,
sneakers
nah.
ladies working.
And I find that with exercise, it's repetition. The muscles remember this is just my personal experience. The more I do a particular stretch, like at the moment, I'm trying to improve my hip flexors. So I've
Yep.
made a point of sitting cross-legged while watching TV, just small bursts. And
Yes.
I do it like I've been doing it for 5 days. The sixth day, it just becomes a bit easier. But if I
Yeah.
stop it, it's becomes stiff again.
Yeah.
So
And you know,
that's
that's one
just yeah, go on.
it's one of the things of and that normal things of aging as well is as we get older, our tendons and ligaments tend to stiffen, not always and not for all people, but it is a normal
Yes,
part of aging. So it is important to look after them. So stretching is really, really important. And yeah, I've noticed the same. You know, once I've hit a certain age, I'm feeling a little bit more stiffer. So, you know,
yes,
movement is really medicine. It makes my
yeah,
body feel
I
good.
believe that,
I feel
no doubt.
happier when I move. So yeah.
Yeah. We've got just making sure we don't get cut off by
Cool.
by Zooms. So we'll just get to know your Nordic walking classes.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
also do Nordic walking, which is outdoors, and people are probably wondering what on earth that is.
I had
Nordic
to
walking
Google
is
it, but you
Nordic walking
explain.
is when you use poles. You use poles when you walk, and it was designed in Finland. And basically, it
Yes.
was initially designed for people to do um, off-season training for skiing. But what it
Okay.
does is mimics cross-country skiing. You use poles to push yourself as you walk. And what that does, it also engages certain parts of your body. Up to 90% of your muscles are engaged when you do Nordic walking compared to 45 when you walk or run, or 50% when you ride a bike. So
Wow.
you can see
That's
a lot
amazing.
more. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You can burn more calories, and it's because you're pushing down on the poles that you're activating things like your shoulders, your back, and your core muscles. You can burn up to 46% more calories by using the poles. You're putting less strain on your lower limbs. You can tone your upper body and your shoulders and your back. And there's also improvements in posture. And it's very, very helpful for some people who've gone through, you know, not acute stages of rehab for, you know, knee replacements and so forth, but later on it can be very helpful in rehab for that, or even for patients with Parkinson's, it can help promote that arm swing
And would the
for them.
poles also provide the support,
They
like
do. They
to prevent the
support.
falls?
It can help you with stability. You know,
Yes.
there are some contraindications for people, but that all comes in the initial stages of the program. I'll assess if someone's safe enough to
Yes.
do it. I teach people how to use the poles, how to you know, set them up, how to do some
Yes.
stretches with it. But we walk on different areas, so you know, we might walk on pathways. We walk along the beach, as you can see in one of the pictures here, up in the
Yeah.
bushland. So lots of different things. And it's lots of fun as well. Like it's a very social thing. You know, we've made a good group of friends. We have a bit of a chat along the way, and we're
Yeah.
outdoors, you know, in all these beautiful locations. So it's pretty cool. There's a couple of techniques that I use. I won't go into the detail because I'll give away the whole program, but
Yeah.
there's different ways of walking. One's better for posture, one's better for cardiovascular health, four-step activated technique, and the plant push and propel strategy. Um, yeah, as I mentioned, there's some real benefits to it. You know, it's very good for your health. You
Yeah.
can reduce your risk of chronic disease. These are just some of them. You can reduce your fat mass, your cholesterol. It reduces depression and anxiety, chronic pain, and waist circumference. But you can also have improvements in your good cholesterol, endurance, your muscle strength, flexibility, how far you can walk, and your cardiovascular fitness, and overall your quality of life.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much just a little clip of it, and then
So these are specially designed poles
they are,
specifically
yeah,
for,
yeah. They're designed,
yeah.
the ones that I use have been designed by a physiotherapist, so they're ergonomically safe and good.
Yeah. And you can collapse and put them away. Or does it stay in the one as a normal walking stick?
So there's a number of different poles that you can I'll just stop that there. There's a number of different poles that you can get, places like Anaconda and camping stores
Yeah,
will
that's what
sell
I
them.
was kind of, what's the difference? Is it similar?
They are very similar, yeah, but some of them will have wrist straps. The ones that I use don't.
Yeah.
Um, the handles are different, and you can change the size. You can with other, you just have to do a bit of research to find the right ones. But I find the ones from Pole Walking Australia are the best for me and for my clients.
And
Yeah.
I think
So
with,
anyway, yeah.
I was just gonna say with
Um,
yourself, and when you take someone on this program, you probably also assess to make sure the pole is the right height for them, the right
Absolutely,
grip,
yeah.
and at the
And that's
bottom, the tip, I guess, is the right,
That's
for
correct. There's
stability.
different tips. Yes, there's different tips you use for different strategies. And yeah, in that first week of the program, I I certainly talk to people about that whole anatomy of the pole and how to set it up at the right height for their height. Um, and how to swing your arms and your legs, because it can get a little confusing and feel a little awkward at first. It took me about 3 weeks to actually get the vibe and to get a bit of flow happening with the strategy. But yeah, we we really enjoy getting out there, and particularly, people are starting to ask questions now about what it's all about, and what are you doing and why are you doing this, and just educating people, and more people are joining in, which has been really great.
And how do people, so I know they can contact you, but so with the program, is there like a cost involved with these ones? And
Yes,
how do they sign up? Obviously to your website, or can someone
yeah.
like, yeah, so they can just contact you and go forth from
Yeah,
there, isn't it?
that's correct. Yeah, there are fees involved, because there
Yeah.
are assessments.
Yes.
People, if they're in a health fund, might be able to
Oh,
claim their fees
that's
back
pretty
through
good.
their health fund, because I'm a group. I provide group exercise physiology, so that's an option for people who have private health fund. Yes, people can contact me. There's a couple of inquire now buttons on my website, which is just here. If you
Yes.
scan that QR code, that'll take you to all of my sites. So you'll be able to contact me there. But yeah, just dropping me an email is also helpful. Um, Generally try and been a bit busy the early start to the year, trying to catch up on things after taking a little bit of leave. But definitely, yeah,
Yes.
any way of contacting me, and I can share all that information with people.
No, thank you, Tracy. So just a bit of background. So how long have you been doing this, just so that people can get to know you a little bit better? And if there's anything, um, any exercises, any parks you like, something personal you could share, but not too personal, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah,
just
thanks, Cheryl. I've been an exercise physiologist since 2018. So all my life, I actually wanted to be a physiotherapist, and
okay.
I did a bachelor. I worked in a lot of I guess government agencies over the years, and did quite well.
Yeah.
Moving my way up the ladder. And one day I just kind of woke up and went, "How did I end up here?" Um, and sort of revisited my dream back in high school of being a physio. And so I took myself back to uni and did a Bachelor of Exercise Science. And then I then applied to do a master's in physiotherapy, but I also applied to do a master's in exercise physiology. And I actually was successful in getting into the EP course and was going to move on to physio, but I actually am enjoying exercise physiology so much more because of the lifelong holistic approach that we take, and the changes that I can help guide people through. It's very, very rewarding. So yeah, I went on to uni, and did a master's in clinical exercise physiology, and also a graduate certificate in work health and safety. Been doing that ever since, so 2018. So not considerably long, but long enough to really get my teeth into it, and start to make some real change in our community. Um, yeah, I really do enjoy the outdoors. The Nordic walking is probably one of the most my favorite parts of my job. I get to meet some pretty amazing people, who come along on the walks with me, and we, you know, we explore our region. There's some parts of the Illawarra where I'm from that I've grown up here my whole life, and I am starting to explore beautiful parts of our region that I'd never ever been to. So I find that such a blessing.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you coming and sharing a little bit of story about yourself. And I think when people realize that you've done your studies and your background, your experience, and your passion, that all together is what you can provide for everyone, right? It's not just, it's your passion. You just love it so much. And you've
Yeah,
got a whole program. And like you said, the silver sneakers, the Nordic walking. These things really resonate with our community because I found, and from feedback from people, is social forms of exercise is what makes it stick. The groups, we love going back and hanging out with the same people. And over time, it builds the relationships and then can also help you with your mental health, physical health. I just won't bore everyone with that, but I really love all that. So thank you so much. And what I'll do is I'll share the recording with you. So you could also
thank you.
share it with your community. And is there anything else you'd like to add before I stop recording? Just very
Well,
quick.
yeah, just on that social, there's a big part of my
Yeah.
programs that I'm very, like you mentioned, social connection. It's such an important part of
Yes.
being a human being, you know. And you know, I watched this TED talk once, and it was about, you know, what was the number one reason for longevity. And we, you know, initially you'd think, oh, someone not exercising, not smoking, eating a poor diet, but it was actually social connection. So it's a
Okay.
really, really important part of my
Yeah.
programs, based on that. And so, yeah, I'm on your side with regard to that. So thanks for sharing the love and the word. And I really, really do appreciate you having me today, and letting me share my story and what I do. So thanks so much, Cheryl.
Thank you, Tracy.